Lisa Garland is one of the most intriguing and tragic characters of the Silent Hill series. Though the game she debuts in has its eccentricities, her character is one of the strongest aspects of the story, one which remains meaningful and horrifying despite how many years pass. In this installment of Silent Hill symbolism, I will explore the nurse's character more fully and judge her role in the game. As usual, I started my research with a name. Lisa is a nickname for Elizabeth, which is a famous name that's been given to queens and figures in the Christian Bible. It means promise of God or oath of God, a verbal bond with the divine. Her last name, Garland, is more interesting to me. It's not a common name so far as I can tell, but it does have important value as an object. Garlands are wreaths of flowers used to signify importance. It could mean you were victorious in a sporting event, or it could honor a recently deceased person. Garlands are signifiers of importance placed upon something or someone else. Lisa is met in Alchemilla Hospital, seemingly untouched by the monsters roaming about nearby. She's terrified, and it's no wonder. The hospital is one of the worst locations in the game. But why is she here? What role does she play? One of the first clues about her is her style of dress. She's a nurse, but her particular outfit isn't exactly traditional. Through the years, nurses in the United States have worn many things. Usually these outfits were reserved and practical, for one because the first nurses were religious folk like nuns, and for another because such outfits were only going to end up covered in blood anyway. Lisa's outfit is unusual for a number of reasons. For one, it is accented by the color red. Most nurses back in the day solely wore white. It was the color associated with hospitals. When brighter shades did come around, it was usually green, the better to hide the grossness that would end up on the clothes. Red would not have been in vogue, too similar to the blood that these nurses wouldn't have wanted to bring to mind for their patients. She's also wearing a much more sexual outfit, red heels, a short skirt, a V neckline revealing her ample bosom. This isn't just a ploy to sexualize a female character. Unlike some sexy nurse outfits in the Silent Hill series, this one serves a purpose. As we'll come to see, Lisa is a person who has been manipulated into playing a certain role, and this outfit reflects that. There's also the rather unique earring Lisa wears. The rest of her outfit is undoubtedly part of her uniform, something she has to wear. The earring is her choice, and it's an interesting one. The green color is a complement to red, and it's seen elsewhere in her outfit, but the earring itself is a twisted, deformed thing. It's not a gem or a bauble. This one form of unique individuality that Lisa is sporting is deformed, twisted, unrecognizable as anything natural. What does that say about her? We learn little of the woman personally, though in Silent Hill Origins she mentions a desire to be an actress, which was circumvented by her family's tradition of working in the medical field. Actress is a role associated strongly with a certain type of woman, young, naive, dreaming of a better life, struggling and eventually succumbing to the pains of reality before reaching said dream. It's a fitting association for Lisa. There's also a strong association between Lisa and Alessa. They are almost in the same situation. They were each manipulated and abused by someone in a position of power over them. Both were tormented physically and mentally until it eventually destroyed them, and each lashed out at other people, causing more pain in an effort to deal with their own trauma. Lisa, of course, helps Dr. Kaufman by keeping Alessa alive, and in that way she does play a role in Alessa's suffering. But is she really guilty of hurting the girl? Or is she being abused and manipulated by Kaufman? Lisa eventually becomes convinced that she is like the others, a monster. But she's actually like Alessa, a victim suffering from terrible abuse. Her attempts to survive and cope with said abuse hurt Alessa, but it was not due to any malevolence or evil on her part. Kaufman is the true villain here. In the first game, he gets Lisa, a younger co-worker, addicted to White Claudia, and blackmails her into helping him keep Alessa alive, essentially locking her away in the basement of the hospital. She was in solitary confinement, her only company a terribly mutilated young girl. It is also implied in Silent Hill Origins that Kaufman and Lisa were having sex, which is statutory rape. The girl, emphasis on girl, was 16 at the time and in no position to be able to say no to the older man who was also her boss. It's clear he used his position and his supply of drugs to manipulate and control Lisa into doing his bidding. This relates back to the outfit Lisa wears, a nurse's uniform that is decidedly untraditional. That's because she has not been brought to this hospital to be a nurse. Kaufman has groomed her into acting as his puppet, someone who does what he wants, someone who he can force to have sex with him, someone he can blackmail to keep quiet. The uniform reflects the way she's been twisted and maneuvered into fitting into this position. It leaves her vulnerable and unprotected, and too pretty for what should be a harsh working environment. One ending of the game gives some closure on that end. We see Lisa rising from the depths of Silent Hill, covered in blood, grabbing Kaufman and dragging him down in a clearly symbolic movement. Downward is associated with the inferno, with hell, and being dragged away, dragged downwards by demons, is a common theme in literature dealing with such things. Clearly, this was Lisa dragging Kaufman away to his punishment. I find it interesting that the game presents us with the video of Lisa's torment. It's framed like a confession, like someone trapped in a police interrogation room confessing to a crime. It is, in a sense, a confession, but Lisa isn't guilty of anything. She feels guilty, but she isn't to blame. This confession is an admittance to the truth of her situation, which Lisa is usually ignoring through a combination of drugs and self-delusion. It also gives the player a chance to see the horror of her situation. The town is presenting Harry with Lisa's side of the story. It makes her more sympathetic. The town is trying to tell us, yes, she's done wrong, but it's not her fault. She needs your help. Sadly, Lisa doesn't get that help in time. Slowly through the game, the delusions around her tormented situation shatter. In the beginning, she doesn't appear to have knowledge of Alessa, the town's situation, or even how she came there. It's likely she's repressed it all. Eventually, she begins to remember what happened to Alessa and to herself, and the horrible things which were done to her and by her. The knowledge shatters her. She becomes convinced she is like the monsters in the hospital. But notice that while this revelation changes her, she doesn't transform into a nurse monster. She looks nothing like any of the creatures in the hospital. She instead begins to bleed from all over. What is blood in this sense? It is the blood of the people killed? No, Lisa hasn't killed anyone, and in spite of helping Kaufman, she doesn't have Alessa's blood on her hands. The blood is guilt. The blood is self-inflicted pain. Often people who suffer abuse and torment like Lisa's become self-loathing and inflict pain on themselves. Lisa is doing this, hating and blaming herself in an attempt to hurt herself, a method of coping with what has happened by placing blame. So she bleeds, much in the way someone would should they cut themselves with a razor, but this form of cutting eventually covers her entire body, consuming her with the pain of it. Otherwise, her physical form, even her mind, don't seem to change. She can still speak. She recognizes and calls to Harry, and knows enough to attack Kaufman and kill him. She is still human, trapped in the town only due to her own self-inflicted pain. She is a lot like Angela in that respect. Yes, she's done wrong, but given the circumstances and her own trauma, it is understandable. What she needs is help, not punishment. But like many characters in this series, it is already too late for her.